I'm Rob and this is Martin and we're here at the Malt Miller and we're going to do a comparison side-by-side brew on the Grainfather S40 and the Grainfather G40.
In this video we're going to answer some of your questions and comments, so keep watching. And if you like the content, please subscribe to our channel, hit the bell for notifications and give us a thumbs up. So today we're brewing on the S40 and the G40. We're going to do a version of our 5 points best bitter kit. So we've taken the 23 litre kit that we sell, scaled it up using the Grainfather software to 40 litres.
Yeah.
So we've got exactly the same grain bills for each system.
Okay, so exactly the same grain bills. We'll be then able to measure the efficiency, so we can compare any differences between the two, how much actually goes out of the units into the fermenters. Should be a great comparison.
Yeah.
The only difference is I'm using Centennial in my recipe. Grain bill's exactly the same, but I'm using Centennial, and you're sticking with the recipe.
I'm sticking with Fuggles, and that's going to be whole leaf that I'm going to be putting into the G40.
And I'm using whole leaf as well, so that should keep that the same. So we're going to end up with 80 litres of best bitter, and the reason we're doing that is because in November is BrewCon in London, where we're going to be actually serving this beer to the people that are attending. So if you've not got your ticket yet, get your ticket booked. It'll be a fantastic weekend.
Okay, so let's throw in. So Rob, how was mashing in on the S40?
Well, it was good, but this is why it's really important to do this in a kind of live setting and also side by side, so it just completely, we can see the differences and we're learning. With the Grainfather, always has been, since the day they came out, you brew with the product on the floor. You don't want to be brewing with this on the floor.
What's the difference?
Well, because it's got a tap on the bottom, and the idea is you drain the finish wort out of the tap.
Okay, so you're going to use gravity rather than pump it out like on the G30 or on the G40.
Yeah, conversely, it obviously has got a pump on it and it has got the recirc arm. So theoretically you could pump it out into a fermenter. However, there's no hop filter on that pump.
Right, okay.
So my worry is that the pump's going to block if I try to do that. So,
what about if you use the filter or something?
Well, you could use a hop, like a hop spider. That would be one way to do it. But for today's brew, I thought it's best if we raise it up, sit it on the table here. We can then drain it directly out into the fermenter. So the tap doesn't have a hop filter on the back side of it. So we've modified it already.
Okay.
But I've put a bazooka type hop filter on the inside of that, which was dead easy to do, and then I can drain it straight out into what will be two 30-litre fermenters.
How was it maintaining the temperature as you were mashing in?
Pretty good. I actually made a mistake, so I'd had it on the high power. I'd forgotten to turn it onto the low power, it did overshoot a little bit. I think it went up to 71, or part of the mash went up to 71. Put it on the low power, started to recirculate the mash. It's back down to exactly where it should be, 68, and it's relatively maintaining that.
And the pump and the clearing and recirculating the worts?
For me, the pump's really quite powerful actually, so unlike you, I'd never do, or very, very rarely want to do with a G30. I've actually throttled back the pump. I'm not worried about starving the bottom plate.
Right, okay.
Okay, so I'm not worried about starving the bottom plate. I know that there's plenty of liquor in there, so that's not an issue for me. And I must say that the recirculated wort cleared very, very quickly.
Okay.
It was like less than 10 minutes, and that was running clear.
The little white plastic thing they give you, you've decided not to use that?
No, I'm not using it.
Why
And
are
I'm
you not
not
using that?
using it because it aerates the wort, and I don't want the wort aerated at this stage. Say what you want about hot side aeration. Some people believe it, some people don't. But I believe when the wort's hot, I don't want to be splashing it about, so I'm not using it. In fact, for me, I would extend the silicone tube on here so that it's underneath the volume of the wort, so that it really isn't splashing at all. That's what I would do.
Okay, some valuable lessons learnt then.
Indeed. So, Martin, going in on the G40, where do we go?
Pretty much a breeze. I mean,
Yeah,
I
we've
didn't
done-
have to worry about lifting it up because I know I'm going to be able to pump more wort out.
Yeah,
If you've used a G40, it's pretty much the same. It's managing all your temperatures.
yeah.
It's managing your timer. The only thing I had to do is put the malt in, stir it, make sure it's all no dough balls. And that's it. I'm going to kind of like leave that and walk away, and it'll notify me when it's the next stage.
Notice that that's quite a strong whirlpool you've got going on there. Are you worried about it disrupting the grain bed, or?
I'm not at this stage. I'm not going to mess with it. You know, they don't say to kind of throttle it back or anything, so I'm just
No.
going to leave it to do what it does so that we can see what the results are on that.
And your temperature, I notice it's dialed in at 67. It's sat at 66. I've just been watching it for the last few seconds. It's sort of flicking between 66 67, so that's handling it really well.
Yeah, it's managing it just on its own.
Nice, what are we going to do now?
Well, I'm going to go and get lunch, and you're going to stand here and monitor this in case you get temperature fluctuation.
Which I won't. Okay, so we're both at a very similar position. Martin's actually just finishing the hop stand on his brew. I've finished mine and I am now cooling. So let's go from where we pulled the malt out, put it on top. How was pulling the malt basket for you?
Okay, so pulling the malt basket, you can do it on your own. There's
Yeah.
7 kilos in there, and it's heavy.
Yeah.
But you know, if
But
there's
you
two
stood
of you,
beside it. And
yeah, if there's 2 of you, do it as a pair.
yeah.
in
But you
terms-
did do it on your own. So
Yeah, I did it on my own. Yeah. In terms of actual sparging, it was really quick. You know, I was sparging 16.7 litres of water, and it went through quite rapidly. The basket, because of the width and the diameter of it, it seems to really flow nicely, as well as kind of the side supports where you've got the drainage as well.
Okay, so when we finish, it'll be interesting to actually see about efficiency, because obviously the sparge is really important. We don't want it
Yeah.
too quickly, but you want it quick enough that you're not waiting around.
I mean, we did also see actually once we'd taken the basket out, the way the whirlpool had almost been going while the grain was in, as it was recirculating.
Yeah.
It was all kind of leaning to one side, but as you're sparging it, it then kind of levels
Levels
out.
it out. Okay.
Yeah.
I've lifted my grain basket out, and actually mine's on the stand, so it's a little bit more difficult actually because I'm up higher. I could do it. That was okay. Whilst I was sparging, the grain basket actually sits below the level of the vessel.
Because the ring that supports it's pretty much at the top, and then you've got that
Yeah,
bit
and
for
then,
the legs. And
yes, there's a base on it. So what I found was, before I'd finished sparging, the liquid was up above the level of the grain basket.
So it's actually touching the bottom of the basket.
Yeah, actually touching the bottom of the basket. So at that point, I can't sparge anymore. There's no point because it's not going to come out of the basket. So I've taken the basket off and I've put it in another vessel so that it drains. I've not bothered putting that back in, that extra liquid, because I want to find out exactly what we're getting here.
Okay.
I've reserved that liquid, and actually it's 4 litres, so that will be interesting at the end to see what we end up with.
Yeah. So when I'd sparged, mine, I was at the 46 litre limit. So it was just about to start touching the bottom of the basket, but because the basket's designed slightly differently, without the legs and the way it rests on the ring,
Yeah.
It's not actually as deep in the kettle.
Yeah, sure.
So,
And what about boil over wise? So
I mean, in total, I mean, I use 35 litres of liquor at the start for mashing.
Yeah.
And then for sparge, I use 16.7, so in total, like 52 litres. By the time I'd sparged it all, I was literally up to the ring
yeah.
on the kettle.
Okay, so
It was
that's going to be
close.
tight. So actually, we've got products here to stop it boiling over,
Yeah.
and we would advise that you need
Yeah,
to
I
use
use-
some sort of hop aid or something.
Yeah, I use the anti-boil over that
Yeah.
we sell, but also having a first wort hops also was part of my brew schedule, so that also helps, I think, calm it down.
Yeah,
as well.
sure, because putting the hops in helps break the surface tension. And, yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're brewing a New England IPA where you're adding no hops at the start of the boil, it is something to consider.
Yeah, definitely.
So talking about the boil then, I was really impressed with the boil of it on the S40. So I actually put it on to boil more or less as soon as I've lifted the malt pipe up.
Okay.
And I'm sparging whilst it's heating up. And actually it wasn't that much after I finished sparging that it was getting up to the boil.
This, I mean, this did it all for me. I mean, the PID ramps it up after the sparging's completed, then gets up to the 100 degrees, and then it just kind of holds it where it needs to.
Exactly, that's
Yeah,
it. So
so
that's the benefits of the
Yeah, I mean, guess with that, you are how are you managing your time? You kind of
Wow, this is what we found. So I thought that the timer would work on here once it's boiling, but actually it's a bit different the way it works. So if I set it to boil at 100, you lose your timer, because as soon as it gets to 100, the timer doesn't kind of work. So it says in the instructions to set it to 103 degrees.
but you're never going to achieve 103.
You're never going to achieve 103 degrees. It boils where the temperature on the screen is saying 100, but because you've not reached 103, it's not counting down, which isn't a problem. I can easily just use my phone. I've got Siri, so just, hey Siri, set a timer for the boil, and actually that's a much easier way of doing it. How did you go on?
Well, this does it all for you. So it's basically the PID is going to manage it all the way up to hitting the 100 degrees. It'll hold it there until you tell it you finish the sparge.
Yeah.
You tell it you finish the sparge. It'll then aim for 100. And actually, I thought it'd dial down a lot faster, and kind of it'd be hanging, but no, it just got there and just then held it. It was brilliant. Really
It's just
good.
one of the advantages of a more advanced system.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Rob, you said we'd had some comments and questions on some of the previous videos, so
Yep.
and you'd be happy to answer them. So do you mind if I
Absolutely.
throw some of those at you now?
Go for it, buddy.
Okay, so Dangerous Hamster, one of the questions he asked, will the G40 and B40 be at BrewCon? So you can look at them both.
Absolutely.
Okay. Reinheit's Gebolt, thanks, can you show how you attach a hop rocket to this?
Yeah, to the G40, so the recirculation and cooling tubing is 3/8. Blickman do a quick connector that's a 3/8 hose barb to 1/2 inch MPT, which they use on their hot rocket. So it's just a couple of hose barbs, dead easy.
Okay. Phil G asks, how easy would it be to lift the grain basket by yourself with 13 kilos of grain?
I'm going to say impossible.
Yeah, well,
You
having
know,
lifted 7 there,
8 kilos. That's going to be doable. I think that you're risking knocking something over, dropping something, getting very wet feet, burnt feet.
John Davis asks, he'd like to know the numbers you achieved on the brews. Thanks.
We'll put the numbers that we've achieved on these brews today. This will be down in the comments section.
Cool. Chris Christie asks, great vid, how stable were your mash temps, and how about a similar vid with the S40?
Okay, so we've pretty much covered that today. The mash temps on the G40 didn't budge. That was, they're more or less just flicking slightly between two numbers, but that was it. The S40 slightly less so. So it's within 2 degrees of the mash temp. And we've also measured it with an Inkbird and instant read thermometer, and actually we've got that calibrated, so we know that's reading true. and actually it was reading the same as the screen, so we know that it's accurate.
So the screen and the probe that's in there are really quite accurate.
Exactly, yeah.
Fantastic.
Okay, so we really enjoy reading your comments and questions, and we really like answering them. So if you've got any more, please fire away in the comments box below. So, we've done a comparison brew today, G40, S40. How do we feel?
Well, I'm really happy with my brew and the system that I chose to use. It talks you through the steps like the Grainfather G40, which I'm used to. Adjusts your temperature, I don't have to worry about timings, it's reminding me, I can walk away. Wi-Fi, it's telling me on my phone wherever I am that it's going to come back and do the next step.
Yeah, actually, we were sat down having lunch in the other building.
I can keep
and
an eye on it.
You can keep, yeah.
Yeah, so for me, that's great. But it comes at a price, you know, all those features that come at a different price than what you're paying for the S40.
Yeah,
So
we're on the other end of the scale.
yeah, so how did you find the S40, Rob?
I really liked it. Numbers are absolutely amazing. You know, doing for the efficiency. Didn't quite get the literage out of it that I required, but we can back liquor. That's absolutely no issue. Using my phone for doing the timings, really no issue at all. As long as you know about it beforehand, absolutely no problem. The one thing I did note on the cooling of this was that the temperature on the screen is very accurate at mash temperatures, no issue at all. When I was cooling, I was wondering why I just couldn't get it below 33 degrees or about that. And then I actually measured the temperature of the wort in there, and it was way below that. It was down at sort of 20. So I think that the screen is very, the numbers on the screen are very accurate at mash temperatures. Not so when it drops down lower. So I think with this product, it's handy to have like an instant read thermometer as well.
So almost like a backup, you've got your own thermometer, you've got your stopwatch. Or
Yeah,
your
just for that
device,
just for that cooler. So you've got the system, you've got the backup of some extra timing device and some extra measuring device.
It's kind of going back to almost old school of brewing when you've built the system yourself or you've got your cool box. You know,
yeah, exactly that. Yeah, it's just, and it's got all of that, and it's in one vessel, which makes it compact and super easy to use.
How about the chilling down? Did that go quickly or?
It was about 40 minutes to chill that right down to about 20 degrees. So 36 litres down to 20 degrees in about 40 minutes. So yeah, there are more efficient chillers out there. The chiller on the G40 and the G30 are much more efficient. You would have done that much quicker. Again, it's an entry-level machine.
I mean, I did notice that we started brewing at the same time and we kind of finished at the same time. But in there, I'd also got I did a mash out, so for 10 minutes.
I didn't.
And then I also did a hop stand for 20 minutes, which you didn't do. But overall, it was like if the brews days had been slightly the same in terms of like the steps, I think this would have finished a lot quicker. It's quicker on
the G40.
So thanks very much for watching. Don't forget, if you've got any questions, put it in the comments below.
And you can always follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter.